Now I'd like to talk a little bit about that arpeggio that I mentioned earlier. E minor 7 flat 5 is a great arpeggio when trying to sound Locrian. It corresponds with the 7th chord of the F major scale in the same way that the Locrian mode is the 7th mode of the major scale. So here are the notes. E to G, I'll play this 7 to 10 on the A string, 8 on the D string, that's a B flat note. Then on the G string, we'll play D and then back to E, 7 to 9. There's one octave of this arpeggio. Let's continue now. We can play on the 8th fret of the B, 6 to 10 on the high E. Here's what we've done so far. And let's come back down. And we can even go down to the low E string, play 10, 6, 10, and then back to 7 on the A string. So there's one pattern for an E minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio. We're taking 4 of the notes from the E Locrian mode. Those 4 notes are the notes that make up an E minor 7 flat 5 chord. And that will really make you sound like you're in the Locrian mode when playing those 4 notes. For now, let's move on for our next scale pattern. We're going to start with a root on the 12th fret of the low E string. And the scale shape looks like this. We're playing the same 7 notes that we've played all day: E, F, G, A, B flat, C, and D. Here we're going to start off on the low E string playing E to F, 12 to 13. On the A string we'll play 10, 12, and 13. D string 10 to 12. G string 9, 10, 12. B string 10, 11, 13. High E string 10, 12, 13. Here's what we've just done. Now let's come back down. And we can go lower to the D on the 10th fret of the low E string and back to the root note E. And while we're in this position, let's take a look at a 3-note per string scale pattern. Similar, but slightly different, looks like this. So here we'll play 12 on the low E string, followed by 8, 10, 12 on the A string, 8, 10, 12 on the D, 9, 10, 12 on the G, 10, 11, 13 on the B, 10, 12, 13 on the high E, and then back down. We can continue and go downwards, 10 to 8 on the low E, back to 10, ending on the root note E. Now before we get into our third solo, I'd like to take a look at one more scale pattern for E Locrian. Here we're going to start off with the root note E on the 12th fret of the low E string, but we're going to do this with the first finger. The scale shape will look like this. 12, 13, 15 on the low E string, 12, 13, 15 on the A, 12, 14, 15 on the D string, 12, 14, 15 on the G string, 13, 15 on the B string, 12, 13, 15 on the high E string. So we've just done this. And let's come back down. And let's do one more 3-note per string scale pattern while we're here. 12, 13, 15 on the low E, 12, 13, 15 on the A string, 12, 14, 15 on the D string, 12, 14, 15 on the G string, 13, 15, 17 on the B string, 13, 15, 17 on the high E string, and then we come back down. All right, so that's a ton of scale patterns, lots of notes I've called out, lots of fret numbers. Could be a little bit confusing. And here's a great trick. Just remember that E Locrian is the 7th mode in the key of F major. So if you know F major, theoretically you know E Locrian. We're just starting and ending on E rather than starting and ending on F. So some of these scale patterns should be familiar to your fingers. Just try and get it in your head that you want to start and end on the note E. All right, let's move on. Here's our third solo with the backing track. I'll play the solo and then we'll come back and break it down. Okay, the first part of this solo goes like this. I'm going to start off on the high E string, 12th fret, that's the root note E, followed by 15 on the B string 2 times, 15 on the G string 2 times, back to the root note E, 14th fret of the D string 2 times, followed by the 13th fret of the A string 3 times, that's a B flat note. And we'll end this phrase by playing E on the 12th fret of the low E string twice. Here's what we've just done. The second phrase of the solo goes like this. We'll start off the same way we started off the solo, 12 on the high E, followed by 2 times on the 15th fret of the B string. 2 times on the 15th fret of the G string, 13th fret of the B string, followed by 15 on the G string 2 times. Next phrase goes between the 12th fret of the high E string, the 15th fret of the B string, and the 15th fret of the G string. Sounds like this. So I'll play 12 on the high E, 15 on the B, 15 on the G. Repeat those 3 notes an additional 3 times before playing 12 on the high E string. Once again. Now I'll play 12 on the high E string one more time, and then repeat those 3 notes, 12 high E, 15 B, 15 G, 3 times. Put all of that together, here's what we've just done. And here's the next phrase. So I'm going to sweep pick across the 15th fret of the G string, 13 on the B, 12 on the high E, and then I'll play 13 on the high E. Pull off to 12, followed by 15B 2 times, 12 on the high E 2 times. Once again. And here's the next phrase. So this lick starts off with a descending group of 3. I'm going to go down the E Locrian mode 3 notes at a time. 15, 13, 12 on the high E string, 13, 12 on the E, 15 on the B, 12 on the E, 15, 13 B, 15, 13 B, 15 on the G. So we've just done this. Now back to 13 on the B, strike it again, slide to 15, and then back to 13. So here's this phrase once again, starting with that descending group of 3. And now we're soloing over the second part of the backing track. I'm going to start by outlining a D minor arpeggio. It sounds like this. So we're going to start on the 10th fret of the B string, followed by 2 hits on the 10th fret of the G string. Down to 12 on the D string, 10 G, 10 on the B, back to 10 G 2 times. Here's what we've just done. Next 3 notes, 12 D, 10 G, 10 B. Now down to 12 on the G, back to the B string, 10, strike 10, hammer on into 11, back to 10, 12 on the G, followed by 10 on the B. Here's what we've just done. And here's the rest of the solo. Ten on the B, followed by 2 hits on the 10th fret of the G string. Down to 12 on the D, 10 G, 10 on the B, 12 G, 10 on the B, hammer on 10 to 11 on the B, 10 to 11 on the B once again. So we've just done this. And a little bluesy phrase to end. So here we're going to bend up a whole step from 13B, grab 10 on the high E, back to the B string, 10, 13, 10, 12G, 10B, bend up a whole step from 12G and then play 12, pulling off to 10 on the G string, 12 on the D, last 4 notes, 10 to 12 on the G, and then 10B, 10G. Let's go back now and put all of that together. So here's the entire solo.